Hi there. Today I am coming to you from my daughter's little she shed, and we're talking about desire or design. I'm always talking about desire. We're talking about design and protecting our mental real estate. Okay. And so, hi, thank you for being here. So, we're going to talk about design and protecting our mental real estate. And so, the first thing that we want to think about when we're considering the space of our home is what's going on in my life? What's going on in the circumstances of my life, but also what's going on within the space of my mind? Like, what is going on in my life, and how can I use the space of my home so it better supports what's going on, so it better supports my mental real estate. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients or students and looking at their lives and what's going on in their space, is we want to sort of address what's the priority. What's the priority right now in their life? And how can the space support them? And so if someone is procrastinating a lot and they have some deadlines they need to meet, but they just aren't able to get the energy going, we want to look at, one is what's going on in the space. Are there a lot of things on the ground? When we have a bunch of things on the ground, or we have like piles of things, or when our furnishings have what I call like a heavy gravity to them, when they're low to the floor, think of the difference between like a low coffee table that sits right on the ground versus like a bistro table where it has long legs. One has a slower energy and a slower kind of a density to it, where the other, it's more upright, so it has a little bit more energy to it. And so we want to look at, okay, what's going on? Especially like with procrastination, we want to look at what's going on the ground. What is going on low to the ground? And is there something that we need to do so that there isn't this stagnant energy within the decor of the home? Another thing that can cause like overwhelm or stress or procrastination is when things are too close together, when we have furnishings that are sort of jammed too close, and so there's not a good flow around them. And so I want you to also think about metaphor, because what's going on in our home, it speaks in metaphor. Okay, so when we have a room that either has furniture that's too large for the space or disproportionate to the space, or we have furnishings that are too close together and they don't allow enough flow, that is going to affect how we feel when we're in the space. And so we want to recognize that there's a correlation between what's going on in our physical environment of our home and how we are internalizing that. We are having whatever, like we're having a sensorial response to whatever is going on in our environment. And so we want to just be aware of what is going on in my life and how is my home perhaps contributing to that feeling, and how can I remedy what's going on and how I'm feeling with doing something different in my space. Okay, so let's say that your relationship is a little bit on the rocks, or relationship is just it's not feeling that great right now. So first you want to look at, okay, what relationship are we talking about? Are we talking about your most intimate relationship? So that we would want to go, thank you for your comment. So with our relationship, we want to look at, is it our intimate relationship, or is it our relationship with our kids or our friends? If it's our primary relationship with our most intimate love, we want to look at the bedroom. And we want to get curious what's going on in the bedroom that might be reflecting back what's going on in the relationship. And so the first place I always look is I look at the nightstands. Are there nightstands on either side of the bed? Does each person have a nightstand? Is the, what I call real estate, is the real estate similar for each of them? Who's closer to the door? Who's closer to the window? Is there equal space to get into bed on each side, or is one person a little bit more cramped? Even, are all the electrical plugs on one person's side of the bed and not the other? What's the view from the bed? When someone is in bed looking out, is there equality for each person on each side of the bed? Okay, so this is just how we start to get curious. What's going on in my life that is uncomfortable for me? What's going on within my mind? Where am I preoccupied? And how are those things related to our home? Because each room in our home communicates to us about specific areas of our life, specific values. And so we can use our home as like the remedy for helping us address whatever is out of alignment with what we want. Okay, so like another example of this is if one of the things going on in your life that you don't like has to do with your abundance or your vitality or your health, then we want to go to the kitchen. We want to get really curious. What story is my kitchen telling me about what's going on in my life? What story is my kitchen telling me about myself? And the kitchen is really interesting because so many of us, when we are stressed, when we are under pressure, we self-medicate, we self-soothe, we self-sabotage. And a lot of times that happens in the kitchen, whether it's getting something sweet, whether it's eating too much, whether it's drinking a lot of alcohol. So the kitchen speaks to desire, and it speaks to those instantaneous desires. So you know how I speak about desire, and there's the little d desire and there's the big D desire. Well, our ego wants us to use, or our ego goes towards our little d desire. When we are feeling some level, like if some aspect of our life is feeling threatened, uncertain, or at risk, this is the part of us that wants to self-soothe. It wants to self-medicate. It wants to do something immediately to distract us from our discomfort. And often that happens in our kitchen. And so if we're finding we're in this cycle of self-sabotage and it's happening in the kitchen, we want to look at our kitchen as, how can it be a support system? How can it help me pause before I self-sabotage, before I grab the Ben & Jerry's ice cream, or before I, pour that last glass of wine? What can I do in my space, in my kitchen, so it brings to my awareness, oh, my deeper values are for vitality and for abundance. And I know that when I'm feeling insecure about something, or when I'm feeling at risk, threatened, or uncertain about something, I'm going to go to the kitchen and I'm going to do something that I'm going to regret. And so using our kitchen so it reflects back to us those things that really give us strength in those moments that we're going to succumb to, the ice cream or the alcohol or whatever. So basically, I'm bringing myself back in to this connection between design and protecting our mental real estate. And our home truly is one of our biggest allies and support systems in creating the life we want, in aligning our life and our environment in a way that helps us reach whatever it is we want, just helps us support our life on a day-to-day basis. So there are some other things that I could get into that I won't get into now, but if someone wants to remind me, we could talk a lot about our routines and our habits at home, because we spend so much time at home. Our routines and habits end up creating much of our life. And so that is a portal we're not going to go down on this chat, but if you're interested in learning more about that and how our home influences our routines, our habits, and our perpetual behaviors, we can definitely do that. So design and protecting our mental real estate. Our home environment, and our mind are in this interconnected relationship. And so every single thing in our home is communicating this sensorial message to our subconscious. And so we want to make sure that the arrangement of our home, the decor in our home, the colors, the textures, that they're supporting how we want to feel. And one of my favorite things to do is to look at, okay, what's working in my life? What's not working? What's my biggest pain point right now today? If I could adjust one thing and make it a little bit better, what would that be? And so if it's finances, you want to look at what's going on in your kitchen. You want to look at what's going on in your laundry room and also your front door. If you are dealing with relationship issues with like friends or family, you want to look at their bedroom, but also the living room. The living room is where we spend time and connect. Also, to some level, it's the kitchen. The kitchen is more about abundance and vitality, but also celebration. It's actually, food is our primal reflection in the kitchen, and like abundance as far as food and plenty goes. Food is a primal symbol for abundance. So I love looking at design from an anthropologic perspective. And if you look back, you see that food and abundance was the symbol for prosperity. In the village, it was the person who had the most animals and the biggest garden and the most sustenance. They were the wealthiest people. And when people came together to celebrate, it was always around food, like food and, of course, connecting and singing and telling stories. So our kitchen is actually a huge source of sustenance and abundance. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm wanting to help make these connections between what's going on in our home and what's going on in our mind and what's showing up in our life. And our home acts as, it shows us the symptoms of what's not working, but it also acts as a remedy. So we can actually use the space of our home to address those things going on within our mind that are uncomfortable for us, but also those things that are showing up in our life. Because our home is literally reflecting back to us a story of what's going on in our life. And once we understand this language of home, there's this NeuroSpatial linguistics. It's a language of home. It's the language our environment is communicating to our mind and how we make sense of it. We can adapt our space in a way that aligns what we want, and once we do that, we start to notice things happening in our life. And this is because this approach, it's based in a bunch of different sciences, but the one most relevant to this conversation is human ecology. And so how we evolve, how we thrive is very much dependent on what's going on in our environment, just like any other creature. And so if the environment of our home is not creating this soothing environment, then it's going to affect our nervous system, it's going to affect our thoughts, it's going to affect our behavior, and ultimately what's showing up in our life. And so sort of as the baseline for how we want to address our well-being and move toward optimal well-being is we want to start understanding this connection between our home and what's going on in our mind and what's showing up in our life, okay? Because if you think of it, like there's three things. What's going on in our home is impacting what's going on in our mind and what's showing up in our life. And our home is the easiest place to address it so that we can shift a change. Okay, so if we want to create a change, we either do it in our environment, we do it in our mind, or we do it with our choices, what's going on in our life. And we can use the platform of our home to instigate the changes that we want for our life and for our mind. It's the simplest way I know to create meaningful and beneficial change. So if you're interested in any of this, I have one course that is 3 hours, And you can learn all about the interconnected relationship between each room in your home and specific areas of your life, and the science behind neurodesign and this approach to design. If you type blueprint in the comments below, I'll send you a link and a 25% discount. And as always, if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. You can send me an audio in the DMs. And of course, if you have any questions while I'm doing these IG lives, you are more than welcome to ask. I love just having the spontaneity of connecting and being together. So yeah, the one thing that I think I would send you off with for homework is to look at your space and ask yourself, okay, what area of my life holds like the biggest pain point right now? And then get curious about which room in your home reflects that topic and what's going on in the space. So pretend you're your own like forensics expert and look at your space as if you were a detective and trying to figure out, okay, this is going on in my life. This is my environment. What is my environment telling me about what's showing up? And it can be what's showing up in your outer life, but it could also be what's going on in here. If you're preoccupied with, self-critical thoughts, then I would send you directly to your bathroom, and I would have you look at your bathroom, but I would also have you make nice in the mirror. And the thing about the bathroom is it's where we're most vulnerable. It's where we are most critical of ourselves. And it's a great place to start being kind. It's a great place to start like true compassionate self-honesty. And here's the thing we want to realize is everything grows from how well we love ourselves. Everything grows from how honest we are about our brilliance. We're so good at being self-deprecating. We're so good at nitpicking what's wrong and what we need to improve. And so our bathroom is the space where we get to heal and we get to bring our awareness to our relationship with ourselves. And so once we have a compassionate and kind and beautiful relationship with ourselves, then we start to experience all of these other bounteous things happening in our life. And so for me, the bathroom is the most vulnerable, but it's also the most potent room. I mean, each room has so many important things. It truly is. Like I say a lot that there's so much metaphor in home, and our home is like the body in a lot of ways, where we need every single organ so that we can reach optimal well-being. And within our home, every single room serves a different function, but it supports the whole. And so I say the bathroom is probably like the most potent. It is because it's all about like our rawness, our most vulnerable. And then the bedroom holds the most potential. If we see, they're all so important. It's like the organs in our body. Like we can't say one is more important than the other, right? Like they all function to support the whole. And so our home is very much the same. So if you would like more information, I invite you to do one of two things. If you want to dive into this and you're like, I want to understand how my home is influencing certain areas of my life, type blueprint, and I will send you the link with 25% off. If you're like, okay, I'm intrigued and I want to hear more, type masterclass, and I will send you the Power of Home and Mind masterclass. And that's about 45 minutes, but it's super, super potent as well. So as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful day.